Finally awake here. I want to do an advice video for, it's mostly geared toward single Christians, people who's looking for someone to marry, a man looking for a wife, or a wife looking for a husband. And the first verse that I want to go to is 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, where it talks about not to be unequally yoked. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communication hath light with darkness? What communion hath light with darkness? And basically, you don't want to be, well, somebody's going to be trying to pull you one way and you're going another. It's just going to cause you problems in the long run. And that's basically what I was telling you. Don't be together with someone that is yoked together. Don't be together with someone that's not a Christian. While you're a Christian, it's just going to cause you problems. You can be, but it's just going to cause you a lot of problems in the long run. And the next verse I want to look at, it covers fornication. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 8. It'll take me just a second to flip to that. Let's see. 10:8. Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in one day 23,000. Fornication is a sin, period. That's all I can say about that. The next verse I want to go to is 1 Corinthians 7, chapter 7, verse 9. Let's see here. Well, I'm going to start at about verse 7. Chapter 7, verse 7, 1 Corinthians. For I would that all men were even as I myself, but every man hath his proper gift of God, one after this manner, and another after that. I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. But if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. If you can't contain yourself, if you're in a position where there's some people that are strong enough, that spiritually strong enough, that they're better off as far as being able to, they're not bound in a specific area. They can go about doing what they need to do and not have to be bound to someone else. But for those who are who need to be married because they're weaker than they should be, you should look for somebody to marry, because fornication is sin. Sin's death. After sin's finished, it worketh death. So it's better to marry than to let yourself fall into the trap of fornication. Let's see. The next verse I'm going to cover is 1 Timothy 4, chapter 4, verse 3. Well, it's 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3 gets the meat of what I'm talking about, but I'm actually going to start at verse 1 to give you a little more insight into what it's talking about. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meat which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. Okay, what you need to look at is that some people will tell you that you can't get married. That if you're going to obtain certain positions, maybe here or there, you can't be married. Well, that's wrong. That's really wrong. You cannot forbid somebody to marry. You can tell him, which is true, that it is better to what I was speaking about earlier in the prior verse, that it's better not to marry if you can contain yourself. But there's many of us that are not like that you can't contain yourself. Okay. The next verse that I want to cover is Matthew chapter 5, verses 20, starting at verse 27. Matthew chapter 5, starting at verse 27. Ye have heard that it is said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. You can't look at some... What it's saying is that of old time I told you, say thou shalt not commit adultery. You can't... Adultery is a sin, period. But if you look at somebody and you're lusting after them, you've already committed adultery. You've already committed that act in your heart and within yourself already, because you mentally wanted to do that. You project yourself upon that. You want it. Okay, now I'm going to look at Titus chapter 2, verses 12. Titus chapter 2, verse 12. Teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. That sums it up. Basically, you need to live a life that is sober and without lust, without ungodliness. You need to get rid of evil in your life. Okay, after looking at those verses, if you're looking for someone to marry, and you're not finding them, start looking at how you're dressing. Are you actually, is people looking at you and saying, they're a Christian, they're dressing modestly? Start looking at where you're going. What kind of image are you professing to others? What are they looking at? What kind of places are you having fun at where you shouldn't be having fun? Are you going to the bars, the clubs? Are you doing things you shouldn't be? If you are, then you're not bringing Christians to you. You're not causing people to look at you and say, wow, yeah, that's a person I could spend my life with. You're causing people to look at you and say, I don't look any different than everybody else. And we're supposed to be separate from the world. We're not supposed to look like everybody else. If you do look like everybody else, or your actions portray the same actions as everybody else, what are you doing? Well, what type of environment are you putting yourself in? Okay, and that brings me to another point that I want to cover, is that actions matter. What you do, how you act, the company you keep makes a big difference in how people see you. Just look at yourself. Look when you go, I'm sure you've seen within yourself or seen yourself when you go to town and you see, or you go to a mall or you go to places and you see a group of people acting up. Do you see one person acting up, or do you see a whole group of people acting up? You see the whole group. You don't see an individual and you say, wow, that person over there, they must be a good person because they're not doing what the rest of these are doing. No, if you're with that group of people, then people are looking at you and saying, well, that group of people over there is doing something. You need to watch who you're around, and you need to see what kind of image you're giving to other people. And the easiest way to look at that and think, where would I find somebody to marry? Look and say, would Christ be there? If he wouldn't, and you know he wouldn't be, then don't be there. Don't be in it. Don't be around it. Don't have nothing to do with it. Okay. I want to look at the subject covering prayers, which has to do with this, praying, because you should be, if that's something that you should have, then you should be praying about it. And I will go to Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut the door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Okay, I also want to look at James chapter 5, verse 16. Chapter 5, verse 16. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Your if you're a Christian, you're a child of God, and God knows what you need. He understands the things that you need in your life, and your prayers mean something. They're not like just anybody. It's kind of like if you have a child, or you are a child, you're one of the two, and you ask your mom or dad for something, and it's something you should have. Well, and it's something good. They want to give you good things. Then it's the same way. If you talk to God, if you pray to God, and it's something you should have, and it's His will, then that's how you should be praying. Okay. Another verse that I want to address is marriage, and it's addressing marriage also, but it's Mark chapter 12, verse 18. Okay, and this kind of, it goes more into those who are, if you've ever seen a lot of the cartoons or things on TV that are addressing people that look for somebody to marry, and they say, oh, that's my soulmate, that's the person that, oh, once you leave this world, you're still with. No, you're not. And that's one mindset that you need to look at, that marriage is for this world, not for the next. And this is a verse or chapter that will help you, and it starts in Mark chapter 12, verse 18. Then come unto him the Sadducees, which say there is no resurrection. And they ask him, saying, Master, Moses wrote unto us, if a man's brother die, and leave his wife behind, and leave no children, that his brother should take his wife, and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were 7 brethren, and the first took a wife, and dying left no seed. And the second took her, and died, neither left he any seed. And the third likewise. And the 7 had her, and left no seed. Last of all the women died also. And in the resurrection, therefore, when they shall rise, whose wife shall she be of them? For the 7 had her to wife. And Jesus answering said unto them, Do ye not therefore err, because ye know not the Scriptures, neither the power of God? For when they shall rise from the dead, neither marry, nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven. Once, like what I was saying, marriage is of this world. You're not married to that person once you die. It's death till you part. That's the whole message here. Okay, well, that's all I have to say about that. I hope that this has helped someone. Well, till next time that I see you guys, have a good day.